Serge Droz is a seasoned incident responder and the security lead at ProtonMail, the secure end-to-end encrypted email service. Serge is also the chair of the board of directors of FIRST, the Forum of Incident Response and Security Teams, as well as a senior advisor to the Swiss-based ICT for Peace Foundation. He's previously worked in private industry and academia in Switzerland and Canada. Join Serge now as he discusses the need for and the ways in which to build a better internet where users are safe from crime and surveillance.
Hello everybody, welcome to my talk about building an internet where privacy rules. My name is Serge Droz and I'm the head of security at ProtonMail, a Swiss-based email provider with a particular focus on privacy. Now my title is about privacy rules. Why is this really important? And for that, I'd actually like to take a step back. So the real basic question you have to ask yourself is, what is it that defines you? What makes you personality? What is it that makes you you and not someone else? Well, it's mostly information, it's data, it's memories, it's old photos, it's letters, and all of these things that in the past we had on printed out pieces of paper, or we sent it on a letter that we wrote by hand and mailed by post, which took a couple of days, but eventually arrived. And there's a thing called postal secret, which is about the post not reading your mail. And that's a good thing. Today, we do all of this in the internet, and all of this information that we have that defines us, our lives, our thoughts, our fears, all of this seems to sooner or later end up in the internet. And that's kind of a big concern. From my late mother, I have 2 boxes of photographs, and they're really just that. They're 2 boxes of photographs, and there's a lot of memories attached. But I'm the only person that has access to it. If someone else wants to see it, I need to make a photocopy and distribute it. Now, in the internet, that's not the case. This stuff is there pretty much for everyone to see that somehow has access to it. Now, is this really a problem? Well, if you take each of the individual pieces, you take one photograph, you take one letter, you take one email, it's likely not a big problem. You're not defined in one email. You're not defined through one photo. But if you start putting these things together, you start to get a bigger picture, and that picture may tell you something totally different. That is the picture of you that people that have a lot of information about you can make, and that's what you see when you see ads. These are ads that are actually prompted or designed to target you as a person with your needs, your immediate needs, and all of these things. Now, when I go back to the box with the photos, sorting these and trying to create a timeline of my mom's life is actually quite hard, because there's no dates on these pictures, there's no context on these pictures, it's just a picture, and I have to kind of figure out, oh, where was this taken? Oh, here, my mom looks quite young, or there's a picture of me where I was a baby, something like that. That's tedious. But in the internet, not only do we have large amounts of data and fast computers, we also have metadata. We have all the information surrounding it. We know when a picture was taken. We probably know where it was taken. We know where the email was sent from and to whom it was sent. It's a big amount of information. And if you talk to people who are in this business, they tell you, well, the metadata is actually much more important than the actual content. So in the internet, if all the information is there, it's quite easy for someone that has access to a lot of it to paint a very good picture of you. Now, the question is this really a problem? Should you be afraid of people knowing who you are? I mean, after all, you probably don't have really anything to hide. And there's these people that say, if you're an honest person, you don't have anything to hide. But, well, it's probably not that simple. First of all, not everybody lives in a free country. In certain countries, having a given opinion may be a big drawback. I would argue actually in pretty much all countries, you don't want to have your secrets spilled out to everyone. Now, the next question is, well, who is actually looking at this? What typically comes to mind first is your favorite three-letter agencies. And indeed, these organizations have become a lot more powerful. They can watch and monitor all the data streams that flow between countries, that flow between data centers, and they do so. And they do it despite the legal protections you may enjoy. So the NSA is looking at emails coming from Brits because Brits are not Americans, and the Brits are looking at the emails coming from Americans because they're not Brits, and then they talk to each other. That is indeed a bit of a problem, but it's also kind of an all problem and a bit boring. Since Snowden, we all know about this, and I think this has to be discussed, so there's no need really for me to continue digging into that. It's also not the biggest problem we have. The biggest problem we have really is our private actors. And let me just... So the internet is not just about you and maybe a service provider. The internet today is big business, and already in 2004, a Canadian scholar, Vincent Mosco, coined the term surveillance capitalism. What he describes and what this means is that we have a business model that's based on analyzing people's data, invading their privacy. So all the big internet, or most of the big tech companies today, make their money by actually looking at your information and serving you ads. There's the kind of really big ones that we all know that do this. They don't necessarily give the data away, but their kind of motto is your secrets are really your secrets and ours only. But it's two, it's not just one person. So that's a bit of a problem. And what makes matters even worse is that below these big things is another layer of kind of gray and shady companies whose names you've never heard, that also sell and collect data. Whenever you visit the website, whenever an app on your mobile phone opens, it starts beaconing out. It starts connecting to certain servers that then redirect this traffic all over the place. If you actually look at what connections, internet connections, a single web page opens, it's frightening to see where data all flows. And this data is collected, it's amended with other data, it's enriched, and it gives a complete picture of a person. What you see here on this picture is the outcome of the analysis of such a piece of data. The New York Times Privacy Project gained access to commercially available data and analyzed all the information available. And what you see here is the traces and tracks of a single person over a month. So you can buy this on the free market. You know who this person is. From this map, it's probably not too difficult to figure out where this person lives, what's its name. This is the ultimate violation of your privacy. If you think you serve anonymously, you're completely wrong. There's a lot of companies that have information about you that goes beyond your wildest dream. And this really is a big concern. Now, the question is, how can something like this happen? And the reason is that we all say yes to this. We actually enjoy being survived. Well, we don't really enjoy it, but we agree to being survived. We gave all these companies permission to steal our data, to use and collect this data by actually not reading and agreeing to the fine print in all these privacy policies and acceptable use policies that pop up whenever we install applications and things like that. So mobile phones maybe shouldn't really be called phones because we barely use them to phone. They should be called personal tracking devices because that's what they are. Ron Dybert, another Canadian scholar, the director of Citizen Lab, says this in his article about the 3 painful truths about social media. The second truth he mentions is we permit this staggering level of surveillance willingly, if not altogether wittingly. And I think he has very much a point. this is quite ironic because as we lose our privacy, these companies that collect our information become increasingly intransparent. We don't really know who is there. We don't really know who collects this information. And that I find is really a scary and frightening thought. Now, this is really where ProtonMail comes in. And kind of our vision is to build an internet where privacy is default. And the internet was never designed kind of as this big thing that steals our privacy, that steals our life, that steals our secrets. The internet really was built to exchange information, to collaborate, to do all these great things we can still do, but for which we seem to be paying quite a lot and an expensive price. So what ProtonMail since 6 years tries to do is to actually come up with an internet where privacy is the default. So we started doing this with email. Why email? Because email is kind of something that everyone uses, and it's something that's been around for quite a long time. And few people know this. Email can actually be made quite private. There is a piece of software called PGP, Pretty Good Privacy, that allows you to really encrypt your emails and make sure that only the expected recipient can read it. But that software is actually quite complicated to use. And it's used by kind of technically minded people. It's used mostly by security people, as a matter of fact, because we are aware of the fact that someone may be snooping our mail. But privacy shouldn't just be something that's available to the technically savvy. The same way that a car should not only be available to a car mechanic. So that's why ProtonMail actually took this great technology, Pretty Good Privacy, and put it under the hood. So we hid it away, and most of our users don't even know that they're using it. And that sounds a lot easier than it actually is. So it is a lot of work to do, and we're now in year 6. But we've made great progress, and our user base is growing. But we really feel it's worth doing this. And we really try to do this right. We try to build this in such a way that our users don't even have to trust us. So there's no way we can read your email. And that has a couple of consequences. For example, we can't serve you ads based on whatever is in your email, just for the simple fact that we can't read your email. That's where we are. And it's working quite well. But is email all of it? Is email the end of it? Well, actually, no. There's another thing where we notice is that there's a couple of countries where it's very, very hard to connect to our services or a lot of other services. For example, if you try to access Wikipedia from China, you're going to be out of luck. If you try to access ProtonMail from Russia, it's going to be hard. Why is that? It's because these countries, authoritarian countries, don't really like their citizens to have privacy. So they kind of make it difficult to connect. They make it difficult, or they make it impossible to connect. And they may even go as far as punishing people that connect to certain types of websites. That's why we decided to come up with a second product called a virtual private network, for short, ProtonVPN. If you install this on your computer, you will actually connect to one of our servers, and only from those servers will you go on the internet. So if you visit some website, the website owner has no idea where you are coming from. And again, people say, well, if you don't have anything to hide, then you shouldn't have anything to fear. But that's just plainly not true. I mean, there is places where just knowing that you have a ProtonMail account gets you into trouble, or where accessing Wikipedia is a problem. Or think of a Chinese person that will access a site about Tibet. That person is going to have a lot of problems. So that's why we started doing this. Now, that's a big responsibility because in principle, we can see all the traffic that flows through these things. So if you're one of our customers using this service, we can see what websites you serve to. Of course, that's not something we want to know, so we don't keep any logs. And there's a lot of services that promise the same thing. But we want to go one step further, and that step is transparency. You can actually look up the owners of ProtonMail. You know who we are. You know where our offices are. We are based in Switzerland because Switzerland has good privacy laws, and we make sure that we stick to the law. We don't want to give criminals a place to hide, but we want to make sure that legitimate traffic can travel through the internet without having consequences for the users. Does it really matter? Well, it does matter. So when China introduced its new security law in Hong Kong on this particular date, what we saw is an uptick in new customers. So these are customers per 5 minutes. So what you saw at that particular day is that people, once they learned that China is imposing new measures to surveil them, immediately jump to our services. That's not something we only see in China. We see this in other countries. We see it in Poland. When Poland starts doing funny things to the press, we see it all over the place. Whenever regimes start to kind of censor the press, start to kind of cut down on the flow of information, start going after people with unpleasant opinions, we see this in our statistics. We see a spike in people signing up. And that is a clear sign that our services really are needed. But it's not only enough to have just VPN and just email. There's a lot more. We use the internet for so many things in our daily lives. We use calendars, we use it to store like our documents and so on. So we kind of slowly rebuilding all of the cool internet services, but with a privacy respecting angle. So for example, we have a calendar where only you can see whatever agreements or dates you have or the people you share it with. And honestly, it's no one's business when your dentist's appointment is, or when you see your loved ones, or whatever you choose to do. We have ProtonMail, I talked about this. We have Drive, where you can store documents, where you can store your presentations, your family pictures that are no one else's business. We don't have artificial intelligence that goes through the family pictures and figures out, oh, gee, you like cycling. We're going to show you a couple of ads about cycling. And we have Proton VPN that allows you to actually surf the internet without fearing that someone actually starts analyzing what you watch. You may wonder how we function and how we finance all of this. It's our very, very strong belief that privacy should not be something that's only for the technically savvy, and it isn't something that should only be available to wealthy people. Here in the West, probably everyone has enough money to spend a couple of dollars or on an email account. But in many parts of the world, that is not the case. But these people come online too. The expected next 4 billion internet users don't live in Europe or North America. They live in Africa, they live in Central Asia, they live in all these places that have emerging economies. And where a dollar still is a lot of money. So we make sure that our basis services remain free, and we really want this to be the norm. Everybody should have access to good privacy for his or her basic communication needs. We make our money by selling the services for more storage, for advanced services, where people pay something, and that is, it seems, what people value. It's now, often people say, well, I can get free email. Well, it only is free in terms of you don't pay money. You actually do pay. You pay with your data and information. And that is something I've heard a lot over the past couple of years. And always I had to explain why this is not the case, why you actually are monetized and so on. But luckily enough, this is actually changing. People are becoming more aware of privacy. They're becoming aware of the value of privacy. And I think one of the top examples is when WhatsApp, which belongs to Facebook, wanted to change its privacy policy, allowing the data and information collected in WhatsApp to be hooked up with the information collected on Facebook. There was such an uproar that Facebook took a step back and skipped that adaptation. That is a good sign. So that means that people start valuing and recognizing that privacy, which by the way is a guaranteed human right, it's guaranteed to you by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that this is something valuable, that this is something that has a value. But it's not enough when people just have the recollection or understanding that this is something that is of value. It also means we need to have products that actually support privacy. So that's one of the things that we try to fix. We try to make sure that there is easy to use privacy-aware products. And really, that is what our vision is. We want to enable freedom online and ensure that the internet serves the interest of all people, not just a few select ones. I've talked a little while about why privacy is important and what we try to do. I hope that was interesting. And if there's any questions, please reach out. Thank you very much.